Hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews. On an episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews. I haven't done one of these videos in a long time, so here's my top 5 best and worst movies of 2018. There are some honorable mentions, so here it goes. Upgrade was a low-budget sci-fi movie that was not only impressive with its effects, but with its action, its story, and the various plot twists throughout. Destination Wedding was a pleasant surprise about two pessimistic people, and it works because the dialogue is so good, and the chemistry between Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder is great. In fact, they might be married in real life. A Quiet Place was a good horror movie, but I felt like the last 15 minutes were very problematic because there were some very noticeable cliches that I didn't like. And finally, Ready Player One was a purely fun and entertaining movie. It is the most fun that I've had watching a Steven Spielberg movie in a very long time, and it's miles better than his other movie, The BFG. Now that I'm done with my honorable mentions, here's my top 5 best movies of 2018. At number 5 is Hereditary. This is the only movie on my list that I did not see in theaters, but it is the best horror movie of the year. I like how it took its time to build up tension, and it relied on atmospheric horror while taking the high road by not doing any of the dumb tropes such as cheap jump scares or trying to gross people out with a bunch of blood and gore. At number 4 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This movie is not only the best surprise of the year, but it's better than most Spider-Man movies. It is the most comic book movie that I've ever seen with its art style, and the animation style was very good for the most part. The characters were well written, you cared about Miles Morales, and the funny stuff worked about 90% of the time. My favorite character personally was Noir Spider-Man. Although the villains could have been better, it was a way better comic book movie with a black lead than Black Panther. Low-key, Black Panther is the most overrated movie of 2018. At number 3 is Mission Impossible Fallout. This movie is easily the best Mission Impossible movie ever made. Not only did the plot keep thickening throughout, and there was no shortage of twists, but the characters were great, and each of them played an important factor. The action was top-notch, especially the Paris chase scene. Although there was sort of a surprise villain, it sort of worked because it was a mystery. At number 2 is Incredibles 2. Although it's not great like the first one, it's a very solid sequel. I love seeing these characters again, the animation was very nice, the action was good, and I hope that a third one happens soon. But I did not like that they did the whole surprise villain cliche, and that villain was very subpar compared to Syndrome in the first one. At number 1 is Avengers Infinity War. This is arguably the best MCU movie of all time. Well, at this point in time, I would say. It did things that I wanted an MCU movie to do. One is that it has an amazing villain that does not get killed off in the first movie that he's introduced in, unlike too many villains in the MCU. Second is that it was not afraid to kill off characters, and it did not cop out. The cast is great, the jokes work, and the action is so spectacular that you will want to see what comes next. And now for the worst, with some dishonorable mentions. Beirut was a forgettable biopic movie that had potential, but it was a snooze fest and felt like a rejected episode from Mad Men. Hotel Artemis was an example of an interesting idea, but it fell flat with its execution, and the editing at the end came off as sloppy reshoots. The Meg was a dumb movie that reminded me of Eight-Legged Freaks, but lacked any of the charm that Eight-Legged Freaks had. Mile 22 is a very overly basic action flick with some of the worst editing that I've seen in a mainstream movie in quite a while. Now that I'm done with my dishonorable mentions, here are my top 5 worst movies of 2018. At number 5 is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. It's safe to say that this movie is this year's The Last Jedi because both are blockbuster movies filled with a bunch of dumb and questionable moments. Everything from the annoying millennial characters that would put Jar Jar Binks to shame, to rehashing basically the dino monster from the previous movie, to the idiotic plot twist with the little girl being a clone. At number 4 is Unsane. It's odd why this whole movie was recorded on a phone. It would have made sense if this was a student project, but this is by a director who has directed some mainstream movies. I really did not like Claire Foy's character in the movie. She was so unlikable and snarky, and who eats a salad with their hands? Is she the bad guy from Hostel? At number 3 is You Were Never Really Here. While this movie did have an engaging concept, the whole movie felt like an art student hijacked it. And the movie editorial-wise comes off as an editorial mess that's so disjointed that it's hard to see how this movie was seen as acceptable by the studio. At number 2 is Batman Ninja. There is no shortage of the hate parade on DC comic book movies, but they should really spend their time hating on Batman Ninja instead. The movie felt like DC Comics were a bunch of yes men to whatever anime studio worked on it, and it is such a bad Batman flick that it could easily rival Batman and Robin. And the whole climax with a giant mech suit and a Batman giant made of bats was facepalm inducing to say the least. At number 1 is Fahrenheit 451. The other movies that I mentioned might have been bad, but this is the only one that made me angry. I love the book Fahrenheit 451, but the people who clearly made this movie did not understand the source material one bit. Michael B. Jordan seemed lost and Michael Shannon felt typecast. The worst part is the ending. Not only did none of this idiotic crap happen in the book, but it is some of the dumbest and most pretentious garbage that I've ever seen in a movie. Whoever directed this movie should be slapped hard with a hard copy of Fahrenheit 451.